Okay, thank you everyone for waiting, and good evening. And I'd like to call to order this regular monthly meeting of the Killingly Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission. Karina, would you like to do the roll call from your cozy spot?
I'm in my home office, but yes, I can do that. Sandy Eggers,
Here.
Paul Archer,
Here.
Chris McDonald,
Here.
Rodney Galton,
Here.
and Karina Torrey is present remotely.
Yes, and Amy is absent with notification. Okay, our first
All right,
item of
very
business
good.
today would be adoption of the minutes of the October 7th regular meeting and the site walk as well. Why don't we start with the regular meeting first?
Motion to adopt the regular meeting minutes as
Second.
presented.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the October 7th, 2024 regular meeting minutes as they were presented. Do we hear any changes or additions? No, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. We also have the October 7th, 2024 special meeting, which was the site walk on Bear Hill. Any comments on that, or?
I was not in attendance, so
That's right.
yes.
That's right, you can. Do you now get messages?
I do.
That's a
I did
good
get the
thing.
email, yes.
Okay. So,
Make a motion to approve.
is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded to approve and adopt the minutes of the October 7th special meeting and site walk. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, next item is always citizen participation. If anyone would like to make any comments to us on anything that doesn't have the potential to go to public hearing, this would be the time. Were you here to address us on something?
Do I have to stand up here?
Whatever you're comfortable doing.
My name is Jean Palazzi. We have,
Yeah, and just your address as well, Jean.
my name is Jean Palazzi. My address, my home address is 322 Mashantuck Road, but I'm asking in regard to 506 Cook Hill Road, which is next to 322 Mashantuck. It's on the corner of
The corner,
Mashantuck
yep.
Road and Cook Hill Road. There's a small vernal pond there. I've sent an application in, and I also have some pictures that I can, that I took myself.
So this is going to be on the agenda anyhow?
Yes.
Yep.
Should I give you the text?
Yeah, I can take them for now.
Yep.
I think they're
So-
going to discuss it.
Yeah, it's
Later
going,
in the
you're going to be on,
Under
look, you're right there on the agenda.
Yes.
So you'll be
I
showing
gave
up.
you a spot on there, so.
So stay now, or?
Well, that's up to you guys if you want to do that one now, but.
I would prefer to keep it with new business. myself.
Yeah,
business?
because it's
Okay.
not fair, because the other
Okay.
people traveled and
I'll hold
stuff.
on to 'em.
But we will get back to you, Jean.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, then we'll move on to unfinished business. The first item is application 24-1596 of Frank D. Felice. Also Roland, Gerald, Joseph, and Frank D. Felice are the landowners for construction of a septic system, well, gravel road, and associated site work at 90 Bear Hill.
Both sides correct?
Yes. Now, what's your preference here? Should we have Norm start his presentation? I assume he's going to be addressing some of the comments, because there are several comments from the town engineer. What's your preferred order here?
I will address all of the
You're going to go right
comments.
through each one. Thank you.
Not just some of them.
All of them. Perfect.
All right. Thank you. For the record, Norm Tebow, Killingly Engineering. I'm here representing Mr. DeFelice this evening, who is also here in attendance. As you know, this is kind of a two-part project. Number one, we are doing a boundary line adjustment in order for Mr. DeFelice to obtain some land area to install an on-site septic system. And then obviously, we're here before you because in order to do this, we are going to have to disturb some wetlands temporarily, which we will restore at the termination of the project. Going back to, there were actually two sets of comments that were put out by engineering and also by town staff. And then going back to the October 7th, 2024 review by Mr. Capascione. His comments were, please show the quantity and type of material to be removed and replaced within the wetland and floodplain areas. We are not proposing to remove anything there, but what they will do for those temporary disturbances is just put a geotextile down and cover it with 6 to 8 inches of bank run gravel in order to provide a haul road so that the contractor can get back to the area where the septic system is going to be installed, and also for the well drill rig to get back there to drill the proposed well. You also provide a detail on the quantities of materials. That quantity thing, I think, is kind of is repetitive, but we did provide a detail on sheet 2 of the septic system design plan to show how that haul road would be constructed. Please provide the floodplain elevation. This is an unelevated floodplain. It's taken from the FEMA mapping. There's not actually a flood study in the area, but what we do have is right around the perimeter of the existing building that's out there. So that I quote this correctly. All right, we have we have a contour of 564 around the perimeter of the building. The floodplain is just slightly lower than that, based on the FEMA mapping that we have. And the finished floor elevation of the building is 566.2. So we are about 2.2 feet above that elevation. Please show the access drive to Bear Hill Road and demonstrate the ability for safe access. We actually showed that on the boundary line adjustment plan, which is sheet 1 of the plan set that you have. We showed the entrance to the roadway, and we're also showing that the apron will be paved in accordance with the town's requirements, and also an anti-tracking construction entrance will be put in as well. Number 5 was, please provide proof of the acquisition of parcel A. That has not been completed yet. However, we did provide that letter to the commission from the abutters for the Hamel and Felpel property owners who gave permission for Mr. DeFelice to submit an application for this work.
Just one minute, Norm. I think this might be the right time, too, to make sure we have it submitted technically for the record, that we do have a legal opinion on that from the town attorney, that it would be acceptable.
Yep, yeah, the town attorney essentially agreed that a letter would suffice. All the commission members have received a legal opinion from the town attorney. We received that at 3 p.m. today.
We're lucky we got it before the meeting.
I'm going to upload it
But that way it is in the record.
to the website and everything like that. But it came a little late to make it to the packet. But the attorney essentially agreed that the form by which the application was submitted, or any future ones, a letter is good.
Okay, super. All right, as I was saying, the parcel A will be acquired after all appropriate approvals have been received by the town, number 1, by this commission. And also, it's my understanding that we do have to go to the Planning and Zoning Commission because of any activity in the floodplain. So that requires us going before them as well. So obviously, no work can be done until that acquisition is completed. Please include the standard Town of Killenly driveway detail. We added that to the plans. I mean, the driveway is in. I think the only thing that's really relevant to that detail is the requirement of a paved apron. So we've included that for the record. Please include the location and installation details of the utility service from Bear Hill Road. The utilities are essentially right down the middle of the driveway, and they connect to the building on the northeast corner of the building. I actually have a photograph of that I can show you. Right here, the bottom photograph in my response letter, and also up here as well, I have a copy of it. So that's a picture of the utilities connection that comes up to the building, as well as the entrance gate and the driveway itself. And provide a detail for the utility trench showing the backfill, warning tape, et cetera. I did that. And please provide a detail for the slope stabilization of the gravel haul road. That comment is no longer relevant. The reason for that was originally we had the septic system further back on the site, and we had the well considerably further back as well, and it would have required accessing that steeper slope on the eastern portion of the property that we're no longer doing. And then the second set of comments that I received were actually received last Friday, November 1st. Number one, Dave wanted a specification for the geotextile that will be utilized for the wetlands crossing. I added that to sheet 2 of the septic system design plan. I called out the specifications. I didn't call out a manufacturer because as long as you can meet those properties, then it would be an acceptable geotextile. Once again, there was a comment regarding the FEMA flood zone. It's not elevated, not the result of a flood study, but that contour 564 surrounds the perimeter of the structure, and the finished floor elevation is 566.2, more than 2 feet higher. He also asked us to go through the flood ordinance, Chapter 7, to ask how we comply with the flood ordinance. Section 7-31(1) says that new construction and substantial improvement of any residential structure shall have the lowest floor, including basement, elevated to or above the base flood elevation plus 1 foot. This building floor is at least 2.2 feet above the flood level, so I think we meet that requirement. Section 7-31(3). Regarding elevated buildings, the elevated building shall be designed to preclude finished living space below the lowest floor and be designed to allow for the entry and exit of flood waters to automatically equalize hydrostatic flood forces on exterior walls, otherwise known as wet flood proofing. As you can see in the photograph, there is actually daylight underneath the bottom of the foundation here. So if there were actually a situation where floodwaters would rise here, they'd be able to pass through on both sides without the building constricting it. So in that regard, I feel as though we meet the requirements of the flood ordinance. Regarding emergency access, there was a comment to contact the fire marshal. I did copy him. I did speak with Randy this afternoon. His comment was, well, as long as you have a 12 to 13 foot wide driveway and it can support a truck, he felt as though it would be okay. I did explain to him that a turnaround at the end of the driveway is not there and it's not possible. And I did copy him with all of the material that I responded to here. I did not hear back from him after I copied him. I don't know if Jonathan did.
He was out of the office.
He was out of the office, okay. I did speak to him this afternoon, and as he said, as long as he had 12 to 13 feet on the driveway width, and it was a solid base, he felt as though it would be sufficient for emergency vehicle access. I did explain to him also that this is a former trolley line, so there were trolleys over it for many years, and also when the foundation was poured for the existing building back in 2005, concrete trucks accessed the site as well. So H20 loading with whatever vehicle happens to go over it it's certainly capable of supporting it. There's about 2.5 feet of cover over that existing pipe crossing that goes from pond to pond to equalize the pond levels on either side of the driveway. He asked us to show the limit of the paved apron. We noted that on the plans. And we also noted the location of the anti-tracking pad as well. Regarding the utilities, we did say that the utilities enter the building at the northeast corner. There's a meter mounted on the exterior wall, and there are 2 4-inch conduits installed on the center line of the driveway. One of them is utilized for the power. The other one is a spare that does not have any wire in it, but it'll be used if ever needed for whatever purposes, if there's a failure of the power or some sort of a compromise of the power. At least they've got that ability to install additional lines without having to disrupt the driveway. Regarding the wetland flags, he mentioned that the C series of wetland flags, he noted that there was sort of an extension on it, that there wasn't numbered at the end. There was a flag at the termination that just said end. It did not have a number on it, so we put that on the plans. And then the A series, wetland flag 21A is the last flag in that series that was located, and that's on the plan as well. And lastly, we have added some additional clearing limits to depict how the whole road would connect to the existing gravel drive. And I'll, as you can see from the plans, the way that the road comes in, it comes up to the cabin, and then there's kind of like an area that's not really well defined, but then it picks up again past that point as you head further to the north toward the Hamel and Felpel properties. So what we did, we readjusted the straw bales to show that they'd be able to enter into that area to get to that crossing point, and sort of wrap them around a little differently on the plan to show how how that whole road in the existing road would be connected. And then I had some comments from Jonathan. He asked that we change the designation of hay bales to straw bales or silt fence, and we have specified that on the plans. He also asked us to revise the impact square footage to account for the installation and removal of erosion and sedimentation controls. So we changed that from 520 square feet to approximately 700 square feet. Regarding the location of the subsurface sewage disposal system, we'll be located 103 feet from the wetlands at the closest point of the last trench of the system. We also have provided for the record previously a renovation calculation to demonstrate the nitrogen levels at the wetlands will meet drinking water standards. Regarding the location of the tank, the force main that's going to go to the septic system, we're unable to meet that 100-foot setback for the tank and piping for the system due to the location of the existing structure and the proximity to the wetlands. Regarding feasible and prudent alternatives, the initial thought here was we actually pursued just putting in a holding tank because this is a seasonal little camping spot that's just used a few weeks out of the year, and thought that just putting in a septic tank that gets pumped out on an annual basis would be sufficient. However, the state health code does not allow holding tanks at all for under any circumstances any longer. And I did talk to Sean Merrigan at the state about that, and he said that the issue was that people were not maintaining them, and even though they were put in, and people would say, yeah, we're going to pump them on a regular basis, they never were, and they just weren't maintained properly. And I guess they had a number of incidents where it just wasn't complying, so they just took it out of the regulations altogether. And then with regard to the town regulations for the leaching field separation, because Jonathan mentioned when comparing the public health code to the town's regulations, we typically go by the most stringent portion of the regulations, whether it be the town regulations or the public health code. In this particular case, I feel as though the town's regulations are a lot more stringent than the health code, in that the health code says that you can be 50 feet from an open water body, 25 feet if a property has existed prior to 1983, and there is actually no setback distance from a wetland that's not an open water course. There's nothing in the health code that actually defines what that is. I recently did a septic system in Wyndham where we were about 27 feet from the wetlands, where it was a perched water table, and we dug down 14 feet into sand, 27 feet from the wetlands. And we were down approximately 9 feet below the wetland level with not a drop of water in it. It was a perched water table, so there was no hydraulic connection there. And those are the instances where those types of situations are why that regulation is in place in the state health code, because occasionally you do come across circumstances like that. So. And lastly, Jonathan asked that we reference the new state stormwater manual, which we did on sheet 2 of the plans for the septic system design. So, that being said, I did also provide anti-flotation calculation too. I've demonstrated that we're not going to go anywhere with that tank. Okay.
Jonathan, before we start going, how did the staff have time to review this set of comments? It looks like it was kind of close. If he got the stuff on Friday, it looks like you got this stuff today.
I got the stuff today. I did reach out to Dave to see if he had checked his email. He said he saw it pop up. He didn't have a chance to go through it today. He did reference speaking with Norm, though, and going over some aspects of the application. I don't know if it was earlier in the week or today.
It was just today, because, like I said, I did receive the comments on Friday. I wasn't in the office on Friday, so I actually received them today, and I turned them around as quickly as I could.
Now, my only concern is that the staff hasn't had adequate time yet to, through no fault of yours either, but there has not been time for this to be reviewed again yet, has it?
Not by Dave, definitely. I've been looking through it, between, 4 o'clock and now. I would say Norm has addressed the majority.
That's what I was looking at. It looks like there's an answer
Yep.
to most things.
And I'll lament, I don't think this is subject to my review in, the wetlands section. The buoyancy calculation, I don't think addressed actually force. I don't think it's not I brushed off my old engineering school book, with the Archimedes principle thing, and I was like, but I'm leaving that to the professional here. So I just didn't see upward force
Yeah, it's
or
just
coverage.
It's mass balance. That's all it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I didn't even account for the dirt over the top of it either. So that would be a little more weight on top
Well,
of it too.
it's a more complicated,
Yeah.
formula at that point and stuff.
Yeah.
But I was looking at it initially. I was like, "Where's your, the coverage?" And I saw the detail, and I was like, "Oh, it's not called out."
Yeah.
The depth.
Well,
It's usually 2 feet.
Minimally you want to have a foot over the top of it. Yeah. Yeah. So what's going to actually drive this is that we are using a low profile tank in this situation, and in the event that there's ledge out there, we don't know definitively if there is. I think when construction was originally being done, there was some, a couple of small areas where they hit some ledge or some large boulders. So So we are taking that into account and trying to account for it by using a low-profile tank to keep it as shallow as we can.
The other comment that was asked by the commission that we sent to legal was in regards to septic systems or portions thereof within a floodplain. Like, how does that relate to our regulations? And keeping in mind, the wetlands regulations don't really touch on the floodplain that much. It's mainly in zoning and it's in ordinance. To summarize, and again, I will, this is with all the commission members, essentially the town attorney recognized that typically floodplain regulations just address above-ground structures. The Killingly regulations go a little bit more in depth, particularly about protecting ecological systems, scenic recreation, stream belts, and how can you definitively do that. He boils it down more and goes into, essentially, since if you're looking at a closed, sealed thing, which is, I believe, what is being proposed, the septic pump tank, closed and sealed inside of a floodplain, that could be permitted, which I believe is what all the details call to. Even the all the lines are called to be gasketed and everything, which is again, there's a lot of aspects here, but on the health code end is typically what's called for in areas of special concern
Right.
or interest, is the gasketed connections. So essentially, what he boiled it down to was that it could be permitted, especially since we're not talking about the leaching aspect in the floodplain.
Right.
And we had him answer that partly because you guys were asking,
Yes,
but
we
we also
questioned
know
that.
if we move on to planning and zoning, I'm sure similar questions would come up.
I'm sure.
We can submit that as part of the record for there as well.
Thank you.
Again, these will be on the town website. I'm going to try to update the packet with all the information that was added. Other than that, I mean, again, I included a timeline in my staff review, just kind of going through the permitting thing. I did see some notes referring to a foundation when it went in, talking about like high water table, concern about high water table. I'm thinking that Deadman's would probably be a good potential option for the tank, some sort of anchoring. But again, that's mainly just to prevent it from coming out. But that's my thought. I'm going to leave that to the commission and
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessary. I mean, if there was a situation where, my computations indicated that, the tank wasn't heavy enough to stay submerged during flood conditions, then absolutely you anchor it down. In this particular case, I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
All right, so that's it for the staff end for now?
Yep.
And you just are not sure if Dave had any more comments?
I'm not sure if Dave had any more comments. I will say I did look at the timeline.
Yes.
Usually want to knock these things out in 65 days from the date of the receipt. That would fall on November 13th, I believe, which would mean if the commission did want to entertain the idea of tabling any action tonight, we would ask for an extension from the applicant in writing.
All right, now you guys.
I do have a question for town
I'm sure you
staff.
do.
So I can't remember, I've been on this commission a long time, I cannot remember
I
us
don't either.
allowing any sort of septic in a floodplain. Can you recollect the zoning ever coming in front of the zoning for their interpretation of that?
Not since I've been here, in 2016. There, obviously, this structure was permitted, and including, like, you'll see that in the history, certain variances and everything did relate to it being in floodplain at the time, based off of the older
Right.
floodplain maps. We've had other people ask about floodplain. I know we've had some force main stuff going in low areas with like our septic and sewer. I can't recall.
Okay.
Zoning does have a provision for stuff in the floodplain, and that would trigger special permit.
Right, okay.
I think that's obviously that's what Norm has said, this would then go on.
Right, yeah, I'm not worried about the force main. The force main should be watertight, right? I mean, that's the whole point, right? You do the vacuum test or the air test on it, and it should be watertight. My concern is that pump chamber. They are not watertight. You would actually have to put a different type of manhole on there to make them watertight. So, to me, that's a concern, and I wasn't on the sidewalk, so I apologize if I missed this, if anybody asked this on the sidewalk, but what is the reason for not capping that old dug well and holding on to that and not sliding that tank inside Zone X? Is there any reason why you're holding on to that old dug well?
They're just keeping it for, irrigation and, any fire protection and stuff like that, that's all. It's just, it's not a potable water source.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I got a couple of questions. Norm,
Yep.
did you guys didn't do a flood elevation certificate out here to determine the base flood elevation?
No.
Why?
It's not a residential structure. Nobody's living there. It's not, it would require an actual flood study to do it, which would be a whole watershed analysis, and it's not, and it's a pricey thing to do, so.
Sorry, Paul.
Go ahead.
Didn't mean to step on your toes there. But didn't you say the structure was 2.2 feet above flood elevation?
It's 2.2 feet above. We have that zone, that zone that's shown here by the FEMA flood mapping. We've
Right.
got this little circle here
Yes.
that goes around it. We've got a 564 elevation pretty much around the perimeter of that thing. So we are assuming that flood is somewhere around 564, maybe slightly lower, maybe slightly higher. So,
Okay.
based on the FEMA mapping.
So I'm looking at the flood zone A boundary, and it's cutting through 565, which is maybe 75 feet, maybe 100 feet away from that structure. So I'm a little confused by that, I guess.
Yeah, we can, like I said, we can only go by, because of this particular flood zone, it's not an actual, no actual flood study has been done out here, and we can only go by the lines that are kind of, drawn on the FEMA mapping.
Which is correct there, but I mean, we also get called into places where if this house here, if all of a sudden he needs flood insurance, you now have to provide a flood elevation certificate in order to get him out of, or prove that he's not in the flood zone.
Mm-hmm.
So I was
Or
just curious.
either, flood elevation certificate or a LOMA.
Or a LOMA, correct.
Around the other.
But you still gotta create the base flood elevation.
Right.
With something.
If that's the case, yeah,
Correct.
correct. I agree.
Just a couple other, just looking at this in the drawing here, where Jonathan asked for provided stake straw bales,
Mhm.
you put it there. There's another one, if you could, you have it up top there, but you also have a line here that says provide staked hay bales. See it right
Ah.
above the
Oh, yeah,
700 square
okay.
feet temporary?
Well, I'll get rid of that one.
And then, one other, just for clarification, could you put it in your legend?
Sure.
That, so if you looked at that hay bale symbol there, that it would be in the legend so people would know that.
Right, at this point, it appears too, Rodney, that you probably brought up a very valid point about potential at that pump.
Yes.
Comes a question of what kind of situation would best address that?
Well, just my opinion, if you slide that pump chamber down into Zone X, you could eliminate some of that wetland disturbance, right?
Correct, and then it would also, any issue we had with the ordinance, it would be
Correct.
gone.
It'd be gone, correct.
But the problem, he would have to, if he shifted it down into the flood X, he would have to abandon the well. Because of the reason it's there is for the 25-foot arc radius around it.
Yeah, correct, yeah. But that's what I'm saying, I don't understand why that well is being kept. That makes no sense to me. If it's not potable, I mean, it's basically a useless well. Fire protection.
You got a
It would
pond.
make everything
You have a
simple.
pond right there. I don't buy the fire protection thing. There's a pond right there. I do not buy that argument. I don't buy it for irrigation either. What are you irrigating?
No,
It's
everything
not
up
like
in-
there's pristine landscaping there.
Oh,
that
they
you
got,
gotta
I mean,
keep
they've
it.
got
So-
beautiful, blueberry bushes up and down along the edge of the driveway,
Yeah, but
and
those
there's
are
grass
wild.
there.
You know that, I know that. Those are wild blueberries. That's not pristine landscaping. Those are wild blueberry bushes. That's a lowland blueberry. So, I don't understand why that well's being kept. And we could get away from the whole ordinance issue if you abandon that well, slide that pump tank into the Zone X, and then you eliminate some of that wetland disturbance.
Is that anything that's an easy solution for you guys? It would make things much simpler.
Well, that's a discussion that
You would have to have with your client.
I would have Mr. DeFelice on that.
And the other thing, I know I wasn't on the sidewalk, but I did go to the site a couple days after our last meeting. And I do believe stake straw wattles should be on both sides of that driveway during construction. Because that really does just slope right off. So if you're having a lot of truck traffic going through there, I don't know what time of year you're planning on doing this, but you run the risk of just, mud and everything else. And the other thing I do not, that I was a little confused by was your Hall Road detail. It actually looks like that's being dug in, according to the detail.
Yeah, you're right. I can make that adjustment.
And I
Not a
would
problem.
I'd prefer to have crushed stone or something like that rather than bank run gravel. Because the bank run gravel, there's a lot more sediment that comes in the gravel than the crushed stone. So I would prefer to see crushed stone or something like that as well.
Just in that wetland area, or?
Just in and around the wetland, so inside the wetland, well, the whole thing's in wetland buffer, so
Agreed.
actually, yeah, it'd be the whole thing. The whole
The whole
thing's in
thing.
wet, yeah,
Okay.
it'd be, yeah.
I don't see a detail for the paved apron.
Is there a detail for the apron?
And the tracking,
Paul is
the tracking
wondering.
pad entrance. Provide 50 feet of anti-tracking pad.
Well, the paved apron is, on the, basically on the detail for the Town of Killenly standard driveway detail.
Okay. And the tracking pad.
Yeah, that tracking pad at one point may have been taken off because I wasn't calling for it at all since they had that, 700 feet of driveway prior to, but then Dave asked us to actually put it back on, and I called it on the drawing, but I didn't put the detail back on the detail sheet for that.
So that's housekeeping.
Right.
That you can take care of. I think that the issue becomes, ordinance versus moving things
Yes,
versus how would you address the pump?
yes.
Are those the three key elements at this point?
And the wattle's going up more.
Yes.
Yeah. When is this going before planning and zoning?
No applications. been
We haven't put an
Oh,
application
okay.
in yet. One step at a time.
Jonathan, is that something, that ordinance, could we get an opinion from the chair on how they interpret that ordinance?
From the wetlands chair?
No.
I mean, sorry, from planning and zoning?
Planning and zoning chair, yes.
I will double check, well, you can consider in your decision elements, it's all addressed in our section 10 of our wetlands regulations,
Mhm.
and I believe you can reach out to planning and zoning.
Mhm.
If not, you can ask the planner, which I can provide that. But let me double check. I know the ordinance itself, I know the main authority of the ordinance is the building official as well. But we can look to get an opinion. So you're looking for an opinion regarding what aspect of that?
As far as the definition of the, what constitutes the septic system, right? So
Okay.
is it the chamber, the leach field, pipes, is it, and what, what they actually define that as, right? Because it's part of that flood regulation,
Okay.
right?
Have it from the
I
attorney.
mean, in terms of.
Wait a minute, that's,
The attorney.
is that included?
We have that
in
from
the-
the town attorney.
The attorney
And-
addressed
Right, he says, he says there can be two interpretations.
Understood. What
So-
I'll do is I'll share the legal opinion
Okay.
and ask the chair.
Right.
Typically, we would ask, like as almost as a citizen's comment, like a generic thing. It's like a pre-application
Yep.
type of thing. But I'm going to refer back to the wetlands regs,
Mhm.
section 10. I believe it does allow for you to ask for feedback from
Okay.
different entities, and I'll just confirm that.
Okay. I would appreciate that feedback.
I think, though, that we also need to be very clear and fair to the applicant by letting them know exactly what it is we're looking for. If they stay with, this plan is presented, what the issues are and what still needs to be clarified, and what the situation would be if they did move, if they did abandon the existing well, which makes a totally different scenario
Right.
and simplifies.
Agreed.
I think, can you give us a rundown in regard to how our regulations work on the best way to approach this so that they know exactly what it is we're looking for? Because it's not fair to just throw things out to them.
No, I think I've got a.
You know what we mean.
I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah, I mean, I would.
We just want you to know, Norm, that
Yeah.
I mean, if the homeowner or the property owner is agreeable to capping that old dug well and sliding that chamber in, then.
there is no issue anymore.
There is no issue. And to me, that's the key. Plus, you get rid of some of that wetland disturbance, whether it's temporary or not. You get rid of some of that wetland disturbance.
Not getting rid of the
Hmm?
well. The historic well, we're gonna keep it.
Okay.
It's a historic well.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know then exactly what we're looking for regarding the pump chamber
Hmm?
Mhm.
and
Put a tight seal pump chamber cover on?
I'll look into that.
Yeah, I think we make that, so just, we have to fasten it into the tank.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can tell them that.
Okay. We're gonna look into tight seal pump chamber, see if there are other options.
Okay.
okay. So you know just exactly what we're
Yeah.
looking for then.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And looking
Can you put
quickly-
together an exact list of those things for us so that we can have the motion correct there for them so that they know? Because at this point, we would also be needing an extension,
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
I would
or asking for an
I would refer
extension.
everyone to section 10.2 of the
Yep.
wetlands regulations. It's standards and criteria for a decision. It goes through. 10.1 also covers what the agency can consider in making their decision. And it does actually reference Planning and Zoning Commission as an entity that could provide a report.
Okay.
Along with a few other individuals and entities, including the health department. I don't know if you have gotten any feedback yet from the health department in regards to the pump chamber. I know they're kind of
Yeah.
unique looking at the health code.
Right, right, yeah, that, well, it's the all-in-one, oversized tank with one side is the pump and the other side is that. So, like I said, we'll look into the possibility of sealing that off so that
Okay.
we can hopefully alleviate the concerns of the commission.
So seal the pump chamber. Secure that driveway.
Looking at that, outside the floodplain, right, the X zone there.
Mhm.
To the south, going towards the roadway, obviously there'd be concerns about crushing, right? Like if you move the tank, probably in terms of coverage, or maybe there's a pad over it or something like that, I'm not sure. Could that pump chamber be moved outside of the 25-foot range, but south, almost in front of the structure, going towards the roadway, and then running your force main through the 25-foot radius, which I believe already is being depicted, so
Mhm.
I'm guessing that wasn't an issue. I know, obviously you have your utility trench coming off that front right corner,
Mhm.
and you'd have to probably do a level of call before you dig, or careful
Yeah, well,
excavation.
and that's not so problematic with a force main, because you don't have to worry, you can set that as deep as you need to, and you don't have to worry about, getting slope on the pipe or anything of that nature, right, so,
But that might be an alternative that you might want to explore.
okay, we could
So
take a
the
look at that.
replacement options in general, then, that hopefully you could work with the staff on some of those
Mhm.
and see what you came up with. What else was there on this?
We had the pump chamber, we had the staked straw wattles going down the
Yep.
driveway.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Anything else that jumps out? And a review by the engineer to all of the responses, obviously.
Mhm.
The crushed stone.
Crushed stone,
Yep,
yeah.
I've got that noted.
And would we like a definitive on the flood the base flood, or?
I mean, personally, I would like that, but, it's not really gonna matter if he's not gonna move the pump chamber. Right?
And if you-
Again, that's a zoning regulation, if it has to be 2 feet above the floodplain, that's a zoning regulation. Planning and zoning.
Because our purview is our purview,
Right,
not
right.
somebody
Mhm.
else's
Right.
area.
Yes.
Right.
I could imagine the question comes up if we're on the zoning end, just switching hats for that.
Yeah.
In terms of use, right? Like storage shed to cabin, camping cabin, or, question of, is there any sleeping space in there, or is it just a bathroom or a wash area? Those might be questions that come up.
Okay.
For planning and zoning.
Mhm.
Okay, so at this point, then, we would be looking for a motion to table this with the acceptance and written approval from the applicant, because
Doesn't he need to request an extension
we
prior to
we
that?
have to ask them to
I
request
have to
one.
grant one.
You have to grant.
They
Yeah,
have to grant,
one,
they have to
yeah.
agree to it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and you are agreeable
You agreeable?
to that, and I'll send you a written one tomorrow.
Okay.
For that, okay?
Yep.
Yeah, because that's what I meant, we would have to,
Yeah.
we have to request that they
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
grant us the option,
Right.
because we are the ones
delaying it, yeah.
delaying it.
Correct.
And this motion would be in order for all of the aforementioned, and you will have a list to provide to them of all of the aforementioned comments that we've had?
I will,
Yeah.
it will be captured in the minutes, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we will,
I wrote everything down.
yeah, everything, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's any questions, obviously, Norm knows how to find me.
Mhm.
Oh, Karina, we've been ignoring you.
Looks like she's just sitting there being entertained anyway, so. This is your new favorite sitcom, isn't it?
Yes, I'm highly entertained.
Yeah. Jonathan, when do you think you could get an opinion from the other board?
Let me just, well, we.
Because that should also be passed on
To them.
to the applicant as soon as possible as well.
Well, they meet on the 18th,
Mhm.
but it's going to be a special meeting on the 18th. Let me double check with Anne Marie
Mhm.
to see if I can get something from the chair
Mhm.
sooner.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that
Right.
we do it however they've normally done it
Yeah.
in the past. So it might be a function of their meeting.
Okay.
Just as like a comment or
Right,
something.
yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to be looking for a motion to table this application with the applicant agreeing to an extension for our review in December. It would enable us to have time for our engineering staff to review the comments that had been presented by the applicant, looking at placement options and options on sealing up that pump chamber, securing with some wattles and stakes that whole driveway area, crushed stone in the wetlands area, getting the P&Z opinion. Was there anything else I missed?
I don't believe so.
I believe those were the main keys. Did you have anything else, Norman, that we mentioned that I missed? All right, do we have a motion to that
No.
effect?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and thank you very much, and we appreciate that you're willing to work with us a little longer, because the idea is to get this right, not drag it out.
I understand the material wetlands in Europe.
Okay, so you understand. All right, thank you very much. Okay, next item is application 24-1597 of the town of Killingly for sanitary sewer manhole repairs across Killingly to reduce inflow and infiltration work. Okay, I believe that the discussion was that some of it would go as routine maintenance,
Yep.
Yes.
and other things may not.
Yep, I went through the plan set from the town of Killingly's engineering department dated August 2024. Identified two manholes that call out excavating. One being on sheet 7, which was manhole 1192, which is located directly in the center of Valley Road. Based on the soil data, and this is all in your packet, there is a Paxton Montauk fine sandy loam. Based off its characteristics and the location, I'm not seeing a threat or a potential impact to the wetland. The recommendation was following best management practices and coordinating with the wetlands agent during the project, particularly for that manhole. I'd ask our highway department or engineering department to let us know when they're working on it, and we can just be on site. The other one was on sheet number 9, which was manhole 161, which is located on the east side of North Main Street, pretty much in the area of Colts Plastics, but across the street, that little field that's, I believe, used as an overflow parking area. That's a Sudbury sandy loam with very little topography, very low slope, great agricultural soil. Similar, based off its location and everything, I'm not seeing an potential impact to the wetlands, and would ask that the engineering staff or highway department coordinate. Actually, that one would probably just be WPCA, but coordinate with us to have one of us on site during that particular one. Mainly keeping track of stockpiling areas or anything like that, depending on how deep. I believe some of those, the condition of the manholes was a little unknown. It was verifying on site. Those were the only two out of the 74.
Wow.
sorry,
Wow.
75, that called for excavation.
Well, thank you for looking, though, because it's the way to do it.
Yep.
We hold everyone else to a certain standard, the town should be.
I did ask
Oh, too.
Dave, just in kind of meeting and passing, going through that, his thoughts, if there was any others, anything I'd missed on those, keeping in mind, it was his office that put the plans together.
Mhm.
And he said with any one of them, he's telling the highway department, if they see something, anything of concern, to call for him. He would
Mhm.
go on site and, he'll call
See.
anyone. And that's always been my experience, if it's with sewer projects or with drainage projects, they will call the wetland staff and have us on site.
My only comment is, I think town staff should be on site for the excavate and reset of, is that manhole 181? It is pretty close to the Whetstone Brook, is it not?
Oh, the valley,
What sheet is that on?
9?
Sheet 9.
I think it's 181.
161.
161, thank you. I want to do this to the plan set so I can read it better.
Of those two. So 161, it's pretty close to 12. It's not on the far side of the site.
Okay.
It's definitely within 200 feet of a wetland and everything in the water course. Timing, I think, would be an important factor on
Mhm.
that one. If it is springtime or if it's very wet or something, I
Right.
might be a little more concerned in that area. But yeah, definitely, I think we would want to be on site for both.
Would they
Okay.
consider doing those two first, like right now?
I have to confirm with Dave what the timing is.
was the driest anyone's ever seen after,
Right.
after the great floods of
That's
24,
what I'm just
followed
saying.
by the
Exactly.
drought.
They did it right
Yeah.
now, those two,
Exactly.
you know?
I think that should be added as a recommendation, that those,
Yeah.
these that need monitoring be done as soon as possible.
Okay, as long as it remains dry.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Well, the forecast I saw, like
It's
for the
not
next
getting
week and a
better.
half, is it's gonna
So
be.
nothing.
Yeah, so, yeah,
Yeah, you can ask our fire marshals, they are quite busy.
I
yeah.
like that. All right.
Other than that, I didn't have much, but I thought those two would definitely be the two. But if you're still of the opinion that those would still essentially be as of right with those conditions, I would just be looking for a motion or, as it is, we did receive it last month, so you could just make a motion for those two are just,
Why don't we
are
just do those
conditionally
two?
approved.
Why don't we just do those two, and, because it's nice to know.
Yes.
And it doesn't leave you hanging for us to complain later.
Right.
Don't you think so? It just,
Yes,
it's cleaner.
it is a little cleaner.
All right, so there's a motion to,
Motion to approve application 24-1597, Town of Killingly, for maintenance work around the town for sewer manholes, with the condition that manhole 161 and 162, I believe, correct?
1192.
1190, there's a...
1192 and 161.
Okay. Okay. Those manholes be replaced as quick as possible under these dry conditions, and that town staff be out there to monitor the work.
Second.
Oh,
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
motion carries. All right, now we'll move on to new business. Thank you for waiting. All right, first item of new business is application 24-1599 of Jean Palazzi. She's asking if this can be a jurisdictional ruling for removal of leaf litter and sediment within wetland area for use as an agricultural pond. Our pond is the driest I have ever seen it.
Right.
Huh, this looks very similar to most of our ponds in town right now.
There's pretty much no water there.
No, now would be the time.
This would be the time.
This would be the time.
Where's the water come from for that pond? Is that mainly town drainage?
I believe, yeah.
It-
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a small brook that in one of the pictures, I marked it out. There's a small brook that comes across the
Across the
road.
street.
It comes from across the road, it goes under a manhole, or the culvert I made.
Oh, yep.
I drew the picture of that, and then it goes along the side of the road and then goes back under the road again. But the vernal pond that we're wanting to dig out a little bit has a berm of material or dirt between that and the little unnamed brook there. So it's, the water, when it comes out of the culvert, sometimes it comes so fast, it goes over the little berm of.
Are you looking to dig this pond deeper?
We would like to dig out approximately 20 yards, it's about a foot deep at the peak. We'd like to make it perhaps 2 feet deep and bring the soil out and put it up on the field right there next to it, because the field is not, we grow vegetables on it and it's not very fertile. We thought that if we could take some of the pond dirt and put it up on the field, then if we need to irrigate at some time, we have not needed to irrigate. But if we need to, maybe there would be enough water in the small pond that we could irrigate
You
with
could
it.
work in there like you would in your yard this week.
Does this constitute under agricultural?
I think so. Yeah, because it's for an irrigation type pond, so it would be an agricultural use as well. But I'm glad that you brought it to us, though, aren't you?
Yes.
It's better to,
Well, it's existing wetland area.
Yep.
You know, whether or not it does function fully as a vernal pool, it's not the best time of year for us to go out and really confirm that.
Yeah.
I did go through the street file, and there's an old KWP plan from Bruce Woodis, from 2006 for a proposed house. This is prior to a lot line adjustment and everything like that. They only identify this particular one as a wetland, but there's some soils data and stuff. I don't know if you guys would want to see this.
I would.
Okay.
I might have worked on that plan.
and you might have it in your files.
We surveyed all around it.
Okay, you did everything except that now.
We've actually surveyed this piece too before. And we did it for, Mark Tatro did a subdivision all around it.
They took a little piece of that property and put it onto the other property, so that they traded a piece of property so that they would have enough frontage to put another house in the back
Right.
when they subdivided it.
And Gene, in terms of
I know it's
agricultural use, you have
I
a
remember
pretty,
this function. It's a junk.
I would say robust for the size
sure.
lot,
It's a piece of junk. It just gets
agricultural
all the
use.
drainage.
Yeah,
And I'm sure
we've
she'll
been,
find tires
that
in there. It's just-
that 1 acre, lot there is, at least half of it is used
I
for
don't think
agriculture
she
right
wants
now.
to drive it
Okay.
better than filling it.
And this
Oh,
would be
God, yeah.
At one point,
used
we were
for,
looking to come in here and ask to fill this thing. 'cause
agricultural
up.
purposes for
It's
that.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So I mean, it might actually serve a function more
If she
what
fit-
she's
if she
looking to do,
dredges.
wouldn't you think so, Rodney?
It might, my only concern, if it is a vernal pool, that's really my only concern. It looks like the center is down a couple of feet. I don't know if that typically holds water in the springtime and breeds frogs and salamanders and.
Well, we did the subdivision around it,
Yeah.
and it was never constituted, as a vernal pool for the subdivision around it.
Okay,
It was always considered just a wetlands.
okay.
This is an area that, I'll bet you, this is probably the first or second time this thing's ever been dry. Because usually, I'll bet you it always
It was,
has water.
no,
in it.
it was dry a couple of years ago, and my husband dug a couple of bucket loads out, and we got a cease and desist.
So,
That was from Marina. So that's
So
our first
so it's
wetlands.
always wet, so it's probably not a vernal.
probably not a vernal pool, just a wetland.
So would you have a motion that this would be a jurisdictional ruling for agricultural use, and
Yep,
Yes,
Yep.
motion.
second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And you sat here for an hour to hear that.
So
good.
we're set.
Good.
Thank you.
You probably got the driest time in history
Yeah.
to do anything with
Hurry up,
this.
hurry up
I'd like
and
to
start
get it
digging.
done.
I'd
this
start
week.
digging tomorrow.
Yes, hurry up and start
Thank
digging.
you.
If you could, if you're gonna do it this week, let us know. I mean, I'll expect it.
Okay, here's the one we need a little information on, because, mark your calendars, November 18th, at the high school, okay?
Yep.
It's at the high school?
Voicemail and say, hey, we're digging it.
Joint with,
Just that way,
the whole hoopty-doo-dies.
Yeah, everybody.
Zoning and everything.
All set?
Oh, yeah, he's never
Thank
been
you.
through one of these.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
not-
always a good
I'm not
time.
back from Florida.
Really, you are too. Your meat's gonna be in your yard, so you better be back.
It's always a good time.
Yes. But apparently, this is all gonna be a joint public hearing kind of thing. Okay, next item's application 24-1600 of Wyndham Energy Center. It's for a siting council application, and we will be putting remarks together for you to submit to the siting council as we have in the past. Now, want to just give us the rundown on this?
Yeah, so, let's see. Here's your application.
Oh, some light reading, huh?
Yep.
Huh.
Nice.
I remember during one of those siting council applications, they came and they delivered like these, in plus entire box loads of stuff to all of us, like FedEx or UPS or
Yes.
something.
Yeah.
Or some courier or something, I
Yes.
can't
Yeah,
remember.
this all came, I think, United Postal Service. This application, and I'm gonna share,
We do expect you to read it all to us and give us a report.
You want me to outline that for you?
Yes, please.
Just give us the cliff notes.
Yes, yeah.
back here. So this is all, and I touched on this a little bit last month. If you were to go, let me see if I can share this.
Just out of curiosity, are there gonna be a lot of wetland impacts involved in this application?
Looking quickly, this is much less impactful compared to a previous application.
Yep.
That we did rules and procedures, or you
Yep.
guys did rules and procedures on many years ago,
Mhm.
for the same site.
Same site.
The location, obviously being on Lake Road, is where the power plant, or one of the power plants was proposed, NTE. That never occurred. And now, what is being proposed there is a 325 megawatt battery energy storage system, which, if I were to extremely simplify what is being asked for,
Yes,
is
please.
a gravel parking lot with Connex boxes. Very high-tech, very expensive Connex boxes that are batteries. They siphon from the grid, essentially, on off-peak hours. They purchase power, and then they sell it back during peak hours. It is considered a green type of energy. It's supposed to address energy waste, right? Because if it's not used, you can look at the
So it's-
power
it's
lines like a
storage.
river. It just keeps flowing, right? So it's pulling it when it's not being as utilized.
Does it use water?
The system, I believe, they will go through, and it is on there, some of their fire retention. It's more of a dry system, looking through it. But I will point everybody to, on the Town of Killingly's website, if you look, we'll start actually on the homepage. So if you're on the homepage, and you, right on this first part, if you click View All, right in the center, it's going to bring you to Home News and Announcements. And if you scroll down just a little bit, Vitus and Wyndham Energy Center docket. You click on that, gives you a little brief description about the project. Click here to see more, and that's going to bring you to Connecticut Siting Council's landing page for docket number 527, which is the Wyndham Energy Center LLC application. Everything that is in that binder is on here. If anything, if you guys as a commission felt that you wanted copies of anything, let me know. But I think one of the areas that you would be most interested in would be D, which is site plans, because that's kind of what we mainly deal with, right? You click on there, it gives you Appendix D, project site plans, and it might take a second on this laptop to load up, but you can go through all the site plans. There are 33 pages, and see the whole project as if it was any other application that we would see.
Who did the site plans?
Hadley Aldridge.
Who did?
Hadley Aldridge.
See if I can find a good overall one. I think I did download this.
No, they're not tying into the city sewer?
No,
Okay.
nope. It's not on here.
Are they?
They
I
will
know
be
that part of
making,
the application is the
they'll be doing a
discontinuation of
presentation.
NTE.
Yeah.
But are they taking the entire property that was going to be NTE or just a portion of it?
No, this is a smaller portion. This is only 20 acres.
Okay.
This is a smaller portion, and I'm going to try to get us a good overview here.
So everything they're doing must be virtually, literally under
Yep.
the
This
power
is
lines.
a good quick overview of existing, and you can see some of the wetlands areas that are defined. I'm going to try to find a sheet here that actually goes into the application, and it might be, I want to say it's like sheet 9. Now, part of the goal for November 18th. November 18th would be a public information meeting, joint with the Planning and Zoning Commission at the high school for 7 o'clock. That's the normal time of the Planning and Zoning meeting, but given their current project load, we felt it was best to use that time at the high school, assuming a large public interest, to have Wyndham Energy Center come and present this to us. They have already done, which is available on the Town of Killingly's YouTube page, a presentation at the high school, albeit this has been a few months. So the application could have evolved a little bit since then, and should give us a pretty good picture for what is looking to be done. And I'm just trying to see if we can find.
Where are they in the siting council process at the moment?
So, the siting council process allows for our input, but you can look at everything in related to the project on that docket. This might be a good one to kind of give you an overview. Those are those Connex boxes. That's that parking lot that we're talking about here. And here's your wetlands to the north. Going off, there is a transfer station that would be installed. I would encourage you all to go through and kind of play around with the docket number and just look at the different appendages. There's a lot of data here. So even outside the site plans, I think there's some compilation plans that go into almost like dumb it down a little bit. But because we're going to have that presentation, during that presentation, I believe there would be an opportunity for questions from the public. And the Planning and Zoning Commission is then going to have a meeting on the 20th. On the 20th, they're going to go through what's called like rules and procedures, like to say rules and restrictions. If this was our application, this is what we would like to see. That was done with NTE, both by Planning and Zoning and by Wetlands.
Yep.
We would be looking to do that at our next regular meeting.
And that would be fine time-wise.
Yeah, it would be fine time-wise, we have plenty of time. My goal is to come out of the joint public information meeting and to start drafting for you guys, and also looking back at the past rules and procedures, because it's the same.
It's the same
site.
piece of property. I can't
It's the same piece
imagine
of
that.
property,
Yeah.
to see
We
what
wouldn't want many
were
of
the
the same
concerns
things.
then.
No, but I'm glad to see it scaled back, though.
Yeah, see what the concerns were then, and see what the feedback is from that information meeting. I will be at the Planning and Zoning meeting on the
Actually-
20th as well.
Before the 18th, I'd kind of like to see what we had for comments the last time,
Oh,
wouldn't
yeah.
you?
Yeah, if you could.
If you could get them to us before
Yeah,
that.
I can scan them in and send them
Yeah,
out
send
to you
them to us,
guys.
wouldn't
I
you?
have them,
That's a good idea, Sandy.
I have them on the
Yeah,
corner of my
it'd be
desk
nice.
Yeah,
downstairs,
that's a good
so.
idea.
I mean, I don't see us recreating the wheel on this.
No, no.
um,
Like I said,
It wasn't that long ago.
it wasn't. NTE, there was much more impact to the
Oh,
site.
God, yes.
That might be
It
a
was every
better
inch of the place.
kind of quick one, just giving you an overview of, the electrical station area as well as all those units.
Yeah.
I believe this is an unmanned system. It is all operated
It all
by
runs through the ground.
sensors and security cameras.
They all go through the gravel.
But again, anyone that is listening or is interested, the November 18th meeting is going to be advertised. It will be at the high school. We'll have plenty of room there where they can sit down
Kind of day of
and
the
really
week is
give us
that?
all a presentation.
Monday?
Being a joint meeting, it will be all of you guys, along with planning and zoning, probably sitting right at the front. So we'll have some good seats and we'll be able to listen to the presentation together, I think. But in the meantime, I would encourage everybody to go back to that docket number. Again, it's docket number 527 with the Connecticut Siting Council. And there's a narrative in there that you can read through, and it will maybe help better explain the project.
Probably a lot of this.
It's a
Yeah,
lot of.
it is that whole binder is on there. It is a little bit more set up or broken out anyways. But what I would be looking for you guys is if we could just simply do a motion to hold that special meeting.
We have a motion
on
for
the
a special
18th.
meeting on November 18th at 7 o'clock to hear the presentation from Wyndham Energy Center.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
I thought she was gonna smack you.
I would just say, what would?
It is a public information session. It is not a public hearing. It is not a public hearing.
Yeah, that should work. All right, so we'll be there for then, but as I said, it'll be nice to see what we had to say. It wasn't that long ago.
Yep.
I think our regulations and mindset were pretty much where they are now.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll
And I
get
think
you
a lot
guys
of it may already be in place.
If I don't get completely lost by the election tomorrow, I will try to send you guys
I'm the
all.
one that has to be there at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, not you.
I'm planning to be there pretty early, Sandy. Not 5. It opens at what, 6?
Yeah.
6 o'clock? I'll see you around then.
All right, all right. Okay.
How do you like your coffee?
Oh. No, I'll be okay.
You'll be okay?
Yes,
Okay.
I'll be okay. Because they'll be making coffee.
Good.
We make sure we make coffee. All right,
The next thing on there.
it's the bylaws and rules of procedure. We'd asked you about those,
Yep.
and you did print them up for us.
Yeah, so I included a draft. The draft is based off of what I'm seeing in most other towns, but also kind of piggybacking on a similar styling of what we do for other boards and commissions throughout the town. Also, with what I gave you for the draft, is our current bylaws
what I was
from
gonna ask.
1982.
Wow.
Which are quite out of date, and certain aspects don't match what is in the town ordinance, per se. So that's more just for reference. I'm guessing tonight, if anything, take this as homework. If you want, we can put this on
That'd be
for the
great.
next meeting to maybe dig into a little bit more.
Why don't we go and schedule this for the December meeting as well? Because we can always table it. If things end up taking a long time with the one existing application.
Right.
And working on our
Wyndham
siting
Energy,
council presentation, we can always table this, but it'd be nice to have it there to open and start looking at.
Mhm.
You haven't said anything yet. Was that a motion? Chris said that's a motion.
Second.
Let me just take you for pleasure. Motion made and seconded to add a discussion and possible action on our proposed bylaws and rules of procedures for our December meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay,
One other item, so under correspondence commission, that I'm kind of slipping in there is from the town clerk. They provided you a list of, for aquifer protection, but also for inland wetlands. You'll notice it's the exact same dates and times. Aquifer only comes up if needed, but it is all of the 2025 meeting dates.
So do we have a motion to accept the proposed meeting dates for the upcoming year?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Karina, we miss having you here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're not really sorry, you had your grandchild. So we know you're just telling us that to make us feel better.
Well, he's out and he's asleep now, so it's all good.
Oh, no, I'm sure you had fun with him, though. All
Earlier
right,
today I did, yes.
Good, good. Now, let us see, did we have anything else?
I do have one under agent.
Find that, yep.
So this application, essentially, the way staff has looked at it, I was going to be looking to approve with conditions this one as an agent application. Robert Woods for demolition of an existing cottage, construction of a 3-bedroom home, replace stone wall, retaining wall. Again, high and dry, very, very dry at Alexander's Lake right now. But it is well above even where water traditionally goes up to. Driveway well, they are calling for a new drilled well within the 200-foot upland review area, obviously for Alexander's Lake. They did submit a survey, and the applicant submitted an agent application form. I was about to put together a legal ad for it and realized we have the meeting in like 2 days. So I don't know if you guys want to see it, but the staff perspective, we have done a site visit. We have looked at the application. The application is complete. There is permission from the Lake Association to do the application. The existing cottage needs it. You guys are welcome to look at it if you want to look at it.
Are they basically just replacing the cottage on the old foundation, or?
Yes, they're sliding it a little bit over to make it more conforming.
Okay.
But other than that, everything is pretty much in the same spot. It's definitely not a huge cottage in terms of what they're looking at.
Do I have to leave?
Paul would have to recuse himself from this.
Oh, yes.
If you guys want to take it yourselves, but I'm just briefing. So the proposed cottage is only is 40% lot coverage with the a maximum allowed being 50. That includes all the other impervious areas. But looking at the plan, pretty basic. We have the rear elevation line that we look for, that 251 elevation mark, and the existing and proposed cottage. Again, staff's already done the inspection there. I'm not concerned. It would be one conditionally that we would approve, quite simply just subject to staff inspections and making sure silt fence is up, but requiring staff to be called before the wall comes down. We want to look at what's there to make sure that silt fence is put up and protecting the area. I try to stay away from hay bales there because of the proximity up to the lake. But I've had some people do wattles and whatnot before. But yeah, the stone wall is just stacked stone.
Okay.
And it's just kind of crumbling. So, but yeah, if you guys want to look at it, I can give it to you. Otherwise, what happens with an agent application is if the authorized agent does approve an application and individuals felt so aggrieved that they were to appeal it, it comes back to you.
Right.
And then you get to decide it at that time.
Yeah, can I just take a look at the plan?
Of course.
Maybe I can pick Paul's work apart.
I would hope.
I would.
Thanks.
terms of like feedback on the plan, you know, normally we would probably have for a couple more spot elevations, but that's part of the reason going out there to do a site inspection. So when we went out, me and Allison, our environmental planner, went out there and took a look at it and didn't have any real concerns. Nothing was jumping out.
Yeah, I don't think it's a problem. Is all of that retaining wall exposed at this point because of the dry weather?
Yes.
This is one of the few that they're not trying to make a mansion.
I know, that's, it's kind of normal sounding.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, I would say, modest.
Yeah.
By
By
compared
lake
to
standards?
Yeah.
other cottages along the lake. Being such, that's why, you know, staff felt we can move forward with it. I don't need a motion from you. It's more just a brief.
All right, that's good then, so we know. I
I
like that we get to know as much as, you know, anything you tell us about, at least you're not the one being yelled at about it later. It just, no, it's true though, it works out better.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yep, I try
It's
to
not that we're
be,
questioning it, it's just that
yep.
it's for the best.
No, I try to be as transparent as possible, or if there's a real concerning one, Sandy knows, I'll call her up, and
Yep.
it's usually not just to say hi.
No, usually not.
I don't believe we have a town council liaison tonight.
Nope, I don't think so. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All right. All right, now let me get this straight. I'm texting Ray Jolene. Archer beef, lots of hamburger.
Wait a minute, can we shut this off?